Know your fucking place, trash!
The next station will be Fortuna 69.
I'm going to throw this out there for clarification. The Kuva is a very, very fun weapon. It is a very, very satisfying weapon, and it is a very, very good weapon. That being said, although the weapon is an absolute blast, pun intended, it has recently been subject to criticism because it has self-damage, and everyone knows that self-damage being a thing is kind of annoying. If I must be honest, I personally do not care about self-damage. I understand that a lot, and I mean a lot of people don't entirely enjoy using the Kuva purely because it can potentially kill the player, because of self-damage. I respectfully disagree with the idea that self-damage sucks because warframes that can't tank delete themselves. I'm aware that cautious shot exists and is about as valuable as the pennies in your couch cushions, and while I can see the appeal of using it for reducing self-damage, I don't use it, nor do I care about it, other than how it serves to patch an egregious flaw in the game, that being warframe survivability. In my opinion, self-damage exists as a way to add a high-risk, high-reward factor to explosive weapons in particular. The reason for this is because explosive weapons are usually powerful, both in terms of raw damage numbers and because they are oftentimes capable of deleting quite literally an entire crowd of enemies with only one shot. Those of you who have played Warframe for years will remember how absurdly overpowered and meta the Tonker was back in the days where everyone and their mother spammed Draco for focus farming. In order to balance out explosive weapons in particular, self-damage exists. To put it simply, I would say that self-damage is DE's way of saying,
"Hello everyone, we are aware that weapons like the Lens and Axe Ultra are very fun and good because they're explosive. For balancing purposes, it's possible for players to potentially kill themselves with explosive weapons if they use them from close enough distance. It only makes sense from a game design perspective, because if a level 80 corrupted crewman can kill you instantly with one shot, so should literally any explosive weapon ever. Also, we are not going to rework nicks, so shut the fuck up."
Killing yourself with explosive weapons usually happens either because you were too close to your own projectiles, or because the projectile itself miraculously bounced back towards you and ended your suffering. This is going to sound like a very no-shit statement, but instead of continuously firing explosive projectiles at everything that moves and expecting to live, you can instead just move yourself away before actually firing. We have Parker 2.0, so doing this isn't exactly a problem. In my opinion, in order to make explosive weapons remain strong while also making them annoying in some circumstances, it would be good to replace self-damage with self-ragdoll. This would make it so mindlessly using explosive weapons wouldn't kill players or damage them directly. Instead, it would send them flying uncontrollably in a ragdoll state, meaning that they become temporarily vulnerable to being killed by enemies if any are nearby. I personally don't give a shit about self-damage because I don't kill myself with self-damage enough to honestly care. I personally don't give a shit about cautious shot partly because I don't use it because I don't need it, and partly because it's a bad mod anyway. With that in mind, I'm fully aware that some people do want self-damage to be changed or removed, and that's fine. When I say that I don't give a shit about self-damage, I mean that I don't care if DE decides to remove it or not, because self-damage doesn't really affect my own game experience. I can see why some people want self-damage to be addressed, and or fixed quote-unquote, and although I honestly do not agree with self-damage being a big problem in the game, I can understand why some people do think it's a problem. However, that does not mean that everything is fine and peachy. Band-aid mods such as Cautious Shot have been a plague to the game for a very long time now, partly because there are a handful of Band-aid mods that already exist, and partly because it honestly just seems like a very cheap cop-out from DE. Rather than devoting time to finding, isolating, and fixing spaghetti code or specific game mechanics that players have wanted to be changed, they instead simply throw out a solution in the form of a mod. Even if you turn a Band-aid mod into an Exilus mod, that still doesn't solve the root of the problem. Weapons and warframes have limited mod capacity, and because of this, being forced to slap on a mod to fix something that could be simply fixed in code is the dumbest shit in the world if you ask me. I have no experience programming games, of course. But in the case of body count and the melee combo counter, honestly that's something that could be easily fucking fixed. Keep in mind that this is only one out of many examples. Harken, our scope is literally the exact same thing, but on the sniper rifle instead. Instead of giving every companion in the game a passive vacuum effect, we have fetch and vacuum. Instead of giving Nyx a simple buff to one of her abilities, she gets some help in the form of an augment which takes up valuable mod space. My overall point is, band-aid mods are an unnecessary waste of resources to make, considering that DE could just fix the underlying problems of the game instead of putting together specific mods made for the purpose of patching those very specific problems. Also, self-damage is a thing, I guess. I personally don't care, though. Thank you for watching.